The Italian America Show is sponsored by Full Sponsorship. Cento Fine Foods. Trust your family with our family. The Bianchi Law Group. Dr. K, the Management Professor. The authors of the #1 international best-selling cookbook, Don't Cut the Basil. Dr. Mark D'Annunzio, National 4th Vice President, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. The Grand Lodge of New York. The Grand Lodge of Ohio. The Grand Lodge of Virginia. The Grand Lodge of Maryland. The Grand Lodge of the Northwest, representing Oregon and Washington. Long Shot Productions, get back in the game. ACMT, Excellence in Aerospace Manufacturing. Purchase the new book, The Palm Beach PI, by Italian-American private investigator Frank Chiato, available now where books are sold.
I'm your guest host, author Andrew Cotter. I am joined tonight by my co-host, Barry from Ohio, who is an OSDIA member and a regular contributor to all their cultural activities. We also have in the DC headquarters of the OSDIA, Justin, who's our moderator. Hi, Justin.
Hey, how are you?
A cultural icon of American kitchens, Rocco DiSpirito. Rocco, thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Always great to see you.
So I understand you've taken on a number of initiatives during the pandemic. Can you tell us what you did and what the outcomes were?
Sure. So obviously, there's a lot of advocating and a lot of charity work and a lot of other types of work that came up during the pandemic. And other than several major issues that we don't need to get into now, there was a lot of campaigning, a lot of advocacy work needed for the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry is, the #2 employer in the United States after the government, and never gets bailed out. So we're always left to suffer in silence on our own. And so Tom Colicchio and Chef Jose Andres started the Independent Restaurant Coalition, and a bunch of other people, Phil Baltz and Will Guidara. And while they did 99.9% of the work, I was able to help out here and there with an appearance on Fox and some other, social media support. But they actually were able to get our bill passed. The Restaurant Act is now in the $1.9 trillion Recovery Act, and we didn't get the $128 billion we asked for, but we got $28 billion, which will be the difference between, 3 generations of family businesses staying opening or remaining open or closing for good. There's only so much you can put up with as even a restaurateur who has strong appetite for adversity and a stomach and a strong stomach to deal with it. Many of them were just like, the hell with this, like enough is enough, because there's just no breaks for us. The minute there's a recession, the airline industry gets $50 billion. They employ 15,000 people. We employ 20, 30 million people. And then up and down the food chain and the supply chain, we're literally interacting with somewhere in the 40 to 60 million people range. That's an enormous amount of commerce. And restaurants are the bedrock of communities. We're the corner store for many, many communities in cities and in suburban neighborhoods. And we're usually the first employer for most people. So we can't let restaurants fail. We can't let the restaurant community fail. And the majority of restaurants are independently owned and not chain owned. And that's where we really focus, because the PPP was, basically eaten up by large chains, and restaurants with under, 50 employees or chains with under 300 employees, which is a very small group, got pushed out. And so we had to ask and advocate for a special fund for us, and we got it done, which is incredible. And there was just recently a Zoom with the political people who are now in charge of it, and it's going to start in April, and hopefully by the end of April or May, there'll be funds distributed. And these are grants. These are not loans. So they're not microloans, loans of any kind. There'll be no repayment, which, you know, you can have your view about, you know, how the government helps society. And I'm sure there's many different views of those for those who are watching, but the restaurant industry, through no fault of its own, has suffered immensely. And, you know, we're usually the first people back, you know, in the shop working to get, you know, food on the table and feed people. We're also usually the first to feed frontline workers and donate an enormous amount of time and money and food. And we did a lot of that during the pandemic. So we're thrilled that we were able to get a little recognition, and hopefully this will save a lot of business. I mean, it's going to be game changing for me, for sure. And I know, you know, at least 100 other chefs who are counting on these funds to make moving forward possible.
Justin, imagine you're having the busiest night of your moderating career.
There's just a few questions coming in, just a few.
You want to pivot back to one more of them?
Yeah, we'll do. I think our previous questions about Italy and your favorite food got people wondering. And our Sons of Italy Foundation president, Joe Shami, was wondering, outside of Campania, do you have a favorite region for eating in Italy?
Tuscany, for sure, would be at the top of that list. Tuscany is one I've traveled to the most outside of Campania. It's hard to beat Campania, though.
Yeah,
Joe. I have been to Sicily a few times, and also, listen, every region in Italy is amazing. So let's just start there. There is no bad food. There are no bad cooks. There are no bad products. Italy is a miracle. I mean, the fact that they're able to be a modern society with, while holding on to all the old-fashioned routines that make everyday life work so well is incredible. I mean, they still have, you know, their mezzogiorno, you know, meal and rest, which is incredible. And they still eat at home most nights of the week. And most people cook at home, and most people are growing food of their own or buying locally grown food. It's an incredible society with you know, incredible results. People, when it comes to food and everyday happiness and the satisfaction, I would imagine that they rate very high. And, you know, if you look at the work I've done with health and wellness, their obesity rate is a fraction of ours. So obviously all that home cooking and all that local food works well. So I did go to Pisa once, and I visited the Martelli pasta factory in Pisa, and the Martelli family, who still owns and operates it, were very generous. And it's probably one of my most memorable Italian dishes, and it's to this day one of my favorites. It was cavatelli with pesto rosso. So pesto rosso is, as the name implies, a tomato-based pesto, and it's garlic, anchovy, tomato, and basil, and that's it. And boy, was it just like lights out good, lights out. They made it in front of me. They let me help plate it. We sat down to eat it. I thought this is going to be another great Italian meal. It was life-changing. It was so good, I had to put it in my first book. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. Just one of those life-changing moments where I watched them make basically a room temperature sauce and add it to pasta without ever touching a pan, which is, you know, basically how they do most of their pastas. So this is the pesto rosso. It goes through a food mill, which I learned how to use in Italy, and to this day, one of my favorite appliances. But this dish right here it's just insane. Orecchiette, sorry, it's orecchiette, not cavatelli. And what's cool about the Martelli family is they dry their pasta super slow, so their pastas don't overcook and they taste great. And they're using Gragnano and, you know, amazing durum semolina. And I remember the statistic that they gave me at the time was they dry in 1 year what Barilla dries in an hour or something like that. And it was very impactful because you could really taste the difference. And there's some great pastas available. You know, back then it wasn't available in the United States. The yellow bags, the very expensive yellow bags were, you know, only at very, you know, exclusive shops. Now it's widely available, and there are many other great dry pastas available now. And so it's a lot's changed in the 20 years since I wrote that book and went to the Martelli family in Pisa. Sorry. Dario Cecchini is a particularly wonderful memory. I visited him a few times. Once before he was well known, with Faith Wellinger, who's a great food writer who's lived in Italy for the last 25 years, lived in writing from Italy for a long time. If you ever go to Florence, look her up. She will take all comers and bring you to Dario and introduce you to him. And he's, of course, a famous butcher from Panzano in Tuscany. And his steak, his meats, his grilling techniques, his potato, everything he makes is just wonderful. And he's, the sort of archetypical Italian character, in my opinion. He, lives and breathes hospitality, joy, he exudes joy. He loves cooking, even though he wanted to be an architect, and he had to take over the family business after his father died, untimely death of his father. It's a great story. But if you're going to Italy, go visit him. He'll give you everything you want from a trip to Italy. Great food, great personalities, memories that'll last a lifetime. So his steak, his bistecca alla Fiorentina was, game changing for me, because he raises his own cattle, he butchers them himself, and he grills it the proper way. Only seasons it at the end with salt and olive oil, which is, their way of doing it. That's pretty memorable. And then I remember he had roasted potatoes that were insanely delicious. The thing about Italy is you can get a carrot in Italy that will blow your mind and have you asking yourself, well, where have these carrots been my whole life? Why does celery taste 100x better in Italy than it does in the United States? It's incredible. I mean, the terra that they have, the terroir that they have is extraordinary. It's all mountain soil from, that's been fed from lava flows and a million years of mountain water and rain. And it's just incredible what they have there.
We'll be right back after this break.
What's the secret to my famous margarita pizza? Fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, and cento.
People ask my wife, what's the secret to your bolognese?
A little of this, a pinch of that, and cento. Grandma passed on 2 family secrets. Saute, don't fry,
and always cook with cento.
It's no secret that the best tasting dishes use cento, San Marzano tomatoes imported from Italy, with nothing added, just authentic flavor for authentic Italian cooking. Cento, trust your family with our family.
The Sons of Italy Foundation is the philanthropic arm of the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. It was founded in 1959 with the purpose of preserving Italian-American culture, encouraging educational excellence among Italian Americans, and assisting in other areas such as veterans' causes and disaster relief. To date, the Sons of Italy Foundation has given tens of millions of dollars to these efforts. For more information on the foundation or to donate, contact us today.
Andrew, did I hit some of your faves? I think one or two of those is one of your faves.
You're killing me, man. And I have a funny Dario anecdote. I know Dario well too, and I've been there dozens of times and spent 2 of my significant birthdays there, my 40th and 50th with him. And my favorite thing that he makes is his beans. He makes white beans and brodo with tomatoes, and I can pass on the steak almost. Right? Like, that's how versatile he is and how accomplished he is beyond just what he's famous for. And it's a great. He as well. He is my symbol of Italy. In every
he should be on the flag, don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
He's extraordinary. Yeah.
His face should be the flag of Italy. He's in my books too. I feature him in the books as a fictionalized character. Justin, you're done asking questions because they take too long to answer. They're so open-ended.
I have one more,
okay,
also from,
great.
and our foundation president must have known that you were going to say Tuscany outside of Campania, because his follow-up question was, last week was Dante's anniversary of the 700th year of his passing. What would be the special Florentine or Tuscan dinner you would cook for him? So he must have known that you were gonna say Tuscany for that follow-up answer.
Dante would have asked Dario to cook for him, so I wouldn't even have the opportunity. Dario recites Dante while he cooks. So good question, Joe. I would go to Dario and ask him what ingredients he had, and then work from there and freestyle a little bit. I would freestyle. He's a poet. We would understand.
Yeah, it would depend on what was fresh that day.
Exactly.
Cool. Those are great questions, and tough one on the Dante. Wow. But let's pivot back to a previous a bit we were pursuing, and I admire your modesty and sort of not recognizing all that you had done personally over the last year to help restaurants. You dedicated a ton of your time and resources. And every time I turned on TV or Zoom, there you were making carbonara or helping someone raise awareness and funds at your own time. So your generosity over this last year is worth noting. And one of the things that I admired watching you do in person, right, at my book release party a few weeks ago, but also on TV, was instruction. Right, you're a really good cooking instructor, right? And I hadn't seen you do much of that in the past, right? So I watched you roast a chicken one night, for 800 people on Zoom, right? And it looked like you were really enjoying yourself. And has your relationship with food and the way it's conveyed changed over the past year?
I think you can tell that my relationship with food has definitely added a lot to my life in the past year. For those of you who are worried about the COVID-19, I gained the COVID-19 every month. So I ate carbonara, I think, for 30 or 40 nights in a row last March and April, because that and Negronis with a lot of gin in them were the things that were keeping me somewhat sane. The relationship with food that I have is pretty broad, as you noted, and it's fun to be able to go and pick and choose which slice of the pie works for me at the moment, and fun to be able to go, swing like a pendulum from healthy to indulgent, and also able to teach people how to make both. I find very fun, because most people expect me to talk about healthy food at this point, which usually is very disappointing to most of them. And I thought in the middle, in March or April of last year, on these Zoom calls that you talked about in these Zoom classes, there's no way I was going to bring up healthy, even though most people were probably trying to figure out how to eat healthy, like you did, Andrew. I mean, you sort of did a mini transformation. Not that you needed it, but you definitely, upped your level, up to 99% if it was 95 before. And a lot of people were doing that, but a lot of people weren't talking about that. I think people really needed to know how to cook simple dishes that they could make from, and I hate to bring it up, but the pantry items that you were sort of stuck with, because let's not forget, in March and April and May, we couldn't find toilet paper on the shelves and water. And so most people had, bacon, eggs, and cheese around, which is why I chose carbonara, because it's super easy to make with bacon, egg, and cheese. It's basically our BEC sandwich in a bowl. The American version of the bacon, egg, and cheese pasta is the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And I thought it'd be very easy for people to, understand how bacon, egg, and cheese could work in a pasta dish as well. And it also only required those 3 or 4 ingredients that I think most people had around. So it was a lot of attention, not only from me, but from people who were asking me, from City Harvest or whatever charity I was doing the event for, to use ingredients that were very familiar and very easy to get, because there's a lot of sensitivity to the fact that people couldn't get ingredients, right? I mean, that only changed May, June, July, maybe if that. So that's why I was focused on very, very simple foods. It turned out everybody loves carbonara, so I ended up doing that demo many, many times. And a roast chicken is another one, right? It's a simple dish that a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing because it seems too difficult. It turns out it's very easy, and I do enjoy the instruction part of being a chef. So as a chef, you're a cook and a teacher, and you're both of those things all the time. You're simultaneously doing both things for your entire career. The minute you say, I'm now in charge, I'm a chef or a sous chef, the minute you're in charge of even a station, you have to teach others how to do what you're doing so you can do the next thing. And so you're always teaching. And I was a teaching assistant in college, and I assisted with the food classes. I did it in both the CIA and Boston University, where I attended school. And it's always been one of the more joyful parts of cooking for me. It's really, it's just really fun to share what you're passionate about, whatever it is. And luckily, many Americans want to learn how to cook and have jumped on the, I want to learn how to cook bandwagon in the last 20 years. So it creates a lot of opportunity for guys like me.
We'll be right back after this break.
What's the secret to my famous margarita pizza? Fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, and cento.
People ask my wife, what's the secret to your bolognese?
A little of this, a pinch of that, and cento. Grandma passed on 2 family secrets. Saute, don't fry,
and always cook with cento.
It's no secret that the best tasting dishes use cento, San Marzano tomatoes imported from Italy, with nothing added, just authentic flavor for authentic Italian cooking. Cento, trust your family with our family.
Watch the Italian America Show every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on News 12 Plus and celebrate the best of Italian American culture. Each week, we will feature an exclusive interview with a prominent Italian American from around the country. You can watch the Italian America Show on Optimum 61, Verizon 530, or stream live from anywhere on News12.plus. For more on Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, please visit OSDIA.org. Please also follow us on social media.
Yeah, I'll say it. And yes, certainly in the last 20 years, but much more so in the last 13, 14 months. Right? I mean, part of it was necessity. Right?
Yes.
Part of it, I think, and what I'm curious about your thoughts on is that there's just, I believe, a greater appreciation for the value food has in our lives, not just as a matter of survival, right, but as a matter of wellness, of joy, of pleasure, etc. And we were getting there, right? We were talking about the Italians before, who own this, right? This philosophy of sorts, right? This ethos, right? Do you think this past year is going to sort of jump that quicker into the American psyche?
I do think that the experiences of the past year will stick. A lot of it's going to be very sticky. A lot of people are going to continue to cook. And I think, for better or worse, a lot of people are going to remain home even when they have the option to go back to work. And part of that is they like being at home and like spending time with their family, and they like not traveling so much, and they like being home for dinner, and maybe they cooked a few times too, or just encourage the other members of their family to cook. And when a family cooks, there's a lot of joy and memories that are created. And even if you're cooking simple food, or even if you don't know how to cook, there's something very special about a group of people who live together also nurturing each other with food, as we all know, because we come from such rich backgrounds where our heritage is all about that, right? But I don't know if the average American has felt that. And I think this pandemic forced a lot of people to get into that uncomfortable sort of area where you had to prepare for yourself. I mean, there were times where there was nothing open, literally nothing open. You couldn't even get takeout. In New York City, we were a ghost town for quite a while, for a couple of months. And I remember digging in my pantry and looking at the canned tuna and the canned sardines, and trying to figure out how to be creative with the beans and all those dishes. Thankfully, I love all that food. But I think there's a certain amount of unexpected joy that was derived from everyone forced to be home. And then there were, of course, many divorces, but we don't have to talk about those. Some people didn't enjoy it so much. But for those of us who made it through and who have cooked together, I think there's there's no question we're going to continue. I hope we continue it. I think it's one of the better, most enjoyable and most joyful parts of life is eating together with, sitting at a table, eating together. And yeah, of course, the bright, the silver lining was that we got to do more of that, and we were forced to do it. And a lot of people are now talking about how, they didn't realize they missed that part of their life.
Yeah. That said, I, for one, will be running to restaurants as soon as they're fully open, etc.
Yeah.
What's the first place you're gonna go when it's safe to go back in the water?
It's my favorite place. You and I have talked about this a lot. It's Balthazar. It's a restaurant that just reopened this week. It's on
I heard
Prince
that.
and Crosby. Prince and Crosby. They have my favorite seafood platter. It's a triple decker. It's got about 150 pieces of things. And in fact, it's the perfect amount of food for you and I to share with at least one bottle of wine. It's literally made for guys like you and me to sit down and just attack for 3 or 4 hours.
We say we order 2 of them, and we'll send the OSDIA helicopter to get.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah,
that'd be great. Yes, that I'm really looking forward to things like that. All of us were keeping up on what you're doing now, Rock. What's next?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your book.
Okay.
And Dr. Mary also has a new book, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it right behind you, Andrew?
Mine is. So is Mary's.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations. I know what it takes to write a beautiful book, and you guys obviously it's a tough time to put out a book. So congrats and good luck, and hopefully they sell well. Next for me is another book that I started working on. There may be some interesting projects like a restaurant in my future.
And Rocco, before we move on, where can everyone find your book or your book?
Amazon,
okay.
Wherever books are sold.
Okay, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very, very much, Rocco. We appreciate your time.
Really my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
The audience of the OSDIA was thrilled to have you on here. I'm sure they're all wildly familiar with who you are, and getting to know you better, I think, is something that I've enjoyed over the last year, and I'm really glad that they've had the experience as well. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Be sure to tune in next week, and we will be in touch again.
For more related topics in this series, please visit our YouTube channel, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. For more information on Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America and how to join, please visit osdia.org. Please also follow us on social media. The Italian America Show is sponsored by Full Sponsorship, Cento Fine Foods, Trust Your Family with Our Family, the Bianchi Law Group, Dr. K, the Management Professor, the authors of the #1 international best-selling cookbook, Don't Cut the Basil, Dr. Mark D'Annunzio, National 4th Vice President, Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, the Grand Lodge of New York, the Grand Lodge of Ohio, the Grand Lodge of Virginia, the Grand Lodge of Maryland, the Grand Lodge of the Northwest, representing Oregon and Washington. Long Shot Productions, get back in the game. ACMT, Excellence in Aerospace Manufacturing. Purchase the new book, The Palm Beach PI, by Italian-American private investigator Frank Ciato, available now where books are sold.